Yo, what's up, everybody? What's good? What's going down? That's right. The midweek report is here. Yeah, it's a little bit behind schedule, but there's a number of things here that I had to take care of here during the day, and kind of like solidify a few things for tomorrow. As we got like a few interviews that are scheduled to take place tomorrow here. So y'all tune in through the Boston Source YouTube channel at the very least here, and also at least for this particular version of the Midweek Report, we are live on Facebook. So we got a few things here that we're going to be talking about here on this Midweek Report. Of course, you had the announcement of the fight card coming up on May 31st. That will be at the Mandalay Bay Event Center in Las Vegas. See here if I could pull this up. I might pull this up, share this with y'all a little bit so that it has like a little bit of a like a thing here where we're gonna go over it, right? So I'm gonna pull that up here or whatnot. You know what I mean? So just give me a few more moments as I kind of run this here. You know what I'm saying? Man, I have no idea what's going on, man, over in my spot right now. Looks like I got a dog going crazy or something. You feel me? So, all right, here we go. I'm going to share the screen here for a little bit on the Midweek Report. Because for everyone that's going to be listening live here to the Midweek Report and also the replay. All right. So, here we go. Right. All right. So, let me have this here. All right. So, this is what we got. We got super middleweight stars co-headline and separate bouts as Caleb Plant and Jermall Charlo top the PBC Championship Boxing on Prime Video on Saturday, May 31st. Streaming exclusively on Prime Video for all Prime members. Of course, it says there, former 168-pound world champion Caleb Plant defends the interim WBA super middleweight title against Mexico's Armando Reséndiz in the main event from Michelob Ultra Arena and Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. And you'll also have undefeated two-division world champion Jermall Charlo faces veteran contender Thomas LaManna Cornflake in the co-main event showdown of action beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time or 5 p.m. Pacific Time. May 31st, this is going to be I'd say after, of course, Memorial Weekend. So it's that weekend after that, right? They got tickets going on sale this Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, right? But you got the pre-sale tickets available tomorrow with the code PBC. So it shows their pair of super middleweight stars will co-headline PBC Championship Boxing on Prime Video there, right? And separate attractions as the interim WBA super middleweight titleist Caleb Plant takes on Mexican knockout artist Armando Reséndiz, and undefeated two-division champion Jermall Charlo battles veteran contender Thomas Cornflake LaManna on Saturday, May 31st from the Michelob Ultra Arena at Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Lineup will begin at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, and stream exclusively on Prime Video for all Prime members in the United States and select countries. Or it says, hey, join today or start a free 30-day trial to catch the championship card. All right. So there, real quick, because you got the main event there with the former IBF super middleweight champion there in Caleb Plant going up against Armando Reséndiz, with Caleb Plant having a record of 23 wins and 2 losses with 14 knockouts. Just, summarizing there, we had the win over Trevor McCumbee last September. Now, we had the one loss there to, of course, Canelo Alvarez, where he lost the IBF super middleweight title. And his second loss was to David Benavidez. So he's had those two are pretty much his lone losses there to two at the time of the top guys there or around the top there in the super middleweight division. So those are his only losses that he has had so far, right? Now, he has, been there with Coach Stephen Breadman Edwards. Well, now, we got Breadman that, of course, is leading Caleb Plant. Has the other thing there with Kyron Shutdown Davis, among multiple other fighters. Of course, been with J-Rock, Julian Williams. So, now you have Stephen Edwards there, being in his corner here. And as of a few moments ago, pretty much like heard from Stephen Breadman Edwards, and he is, on his way out to Vegas there for camp for Caleb Plant. So got like, a few weeks here, for Caleb Plant to get to work here against Armando Reséndiz, right? Yes, Armando Reséndiz is, kind of like a familiar name for some folks here, because he did have a key win that took place against Jared Hurd in 2023, but then later on in that year, he lost by technical knockout to Elijah Garcia, right? He's only had one bout since then over in Guadalajara, New Mexico. Now he's taking on Caleb Plant here in, they say here is for the interim WBA super middleweight title, so hey, I guess that's what they got here for us here at this particular point for us. I will see if I could check on something here, because we had recently the WBA have their new rankings, right? And I was saying, once they had those new rankings out, who could Caleb Plant potentially face? And I was saying it's Cornflake. But nope, it is Jose Armando Reséndiz, or as they say, Armando Reséndiz. And Reséndiz actually is ranked number 15 in the WBA. Okay. Ranked number 15 in the WBA currently there. So that is where you're going to have this defense of the interim WBA title. Okay. Yes, the full champion is Canelo Alvarez, who will be in a bout coming up on May 3rd, where he goes for the IBF belt against William Skull to become undisputed once again at super middleweight. Yeah. It is what it is with that. All right, so like I said, with Reséndiz, he's at number 15 in the WBA, had one bout earlier this year against Fernando Paliza over in Guadalajara, Mexico. It's basically a one-off or whatever it is, but it's a fight that, kind of like keep busy. My thing about it is that, just going real quick on, say the boxers at some points is that, you have these instances where a number of these fighters are inactive, so they don't necessarily be getting fights. But back in the days, like you talk about all these guys that are fighting all these amount of times, having like 70 fights and 90 fights and 100 fights. Well, the reason why they were having these amount of fights is because they were just getting something to keep themselves busy, regardless of who the opponent is. So thing about it is like for example, here with Armando Reséndiz, his bout against Fernando Paliza in Guadalajara, Mexico was a 6-round bout, and Paliza was there with a record of 5 wins and 2 losses. Yeah, Reséndiz had pretty much had 16 bouts up to that point, but still having that instance where you're able to at least get active in his case, because he hadn't had a bout since the Elijah Garcia fight that was on September 30th of 2023. Hey, for Reséndiz here, this kind of like gets him, back in the mix as far as like getting in the gym, getting himself prepared, being out there doing the workouts, getting around the weight that I guess would be a weight that he would be comfortable in. And I guess a 168-pound division is where I guess he could be comfortable at this particular point. So now he is now in position to face Caleb Plant there for the interim WBA super middleweight title. He says he's very happy to have that opportunity on May 31st. Thankful to be in a great fight once again. Tyler gets former world champion in the main event of a Silver Night of Boxing. It's going to be a tough fight, but prayer for as hard as I possibly can to win and dedicate the win to his beloved Mexico. Viva Mexico, he says. Viva Mexico. All right. But now, got this thing here for the co-main event. Of course, undefeated 2-division champion Jermall Charlo will get in the ring to face Cornflake. Yes. How long have we been talking about this particular fight potentially taking place? Okay. This has been talked about for months here. You know what I mean? It's been talked about for months. And yet, it didn't necessarily materialize. Some folks thought it would happen on, March 1st, but that wasn't necessarily the case. But, they kind of like had some, I guess, to keep it active or whatnot. And now, they have it where finally get it to the point where they, are now down to having this fight taking place. All right. So we got Jermall Charlo there, of course, at 33-0 with 22 wins by way of knockout. Of course, here getting back in the mix, getting back in the ring. Of course, his last bout was against Jose Benavidez Jr. back in 2023, where he, had a unanimous decision win there. Nearly got a shutout decision there against Jose Benavidez Jr., but didn't get back in the mix, of course, with multiple things going on or whatnot. So, but now he's finally secured something here in this particular bout. Now going up against Thomas Cornflake LaManna there, of course, who, bounces up, back and forth between middleweight and super middleweight. You know what I mean? So with Cornflake, his last bout there was going up against Noe Lopez at the 2300 arena. I think he was pretty much it wasn't him. He wasn't promoting that. He does have, of course, Rising Star Promotions, but he went up against Noe Lopez at the 2300 arena back almost a month ago, right? But also had bouts against Juan Carlos Abreu. He's known to have faced Erislandy Lara and Brian Mendoza and Jorge Cota, some years back, right? So, and that was, around that 154 and 160 pound divisions. But, now he's going to be campaigning there at the super middleweight division here going up against Jermall Charlo. You feel me? Shout out to Cornflake, man. A number of people have been talking to him multiple times over the past 5-6 months, seeing if he is going to be the opponent here for Jermall Charlo. But as it was mentioned before, they hadn't necessarily knocked that down yet. But now he finally get this secured, and Cornflake has something there where he's gonna be stepping up, with competition for this particular bout, right? Like I said, he's fought Noe Lopez, Juan Carlos Abreu, Nick Hernandez in his past few fights. But now he's going up here against Jermall Charlo, and of course he's been, more active than Jermall Charlo, as he's had 3 bouts after Jermall Charlo's last bout against Benavidez Jr. So we're gonna see here what the status is for Jermall Charlo. Of course, we talk with Coach Ronnie Shields on the War Week radio channel here each Tuesday or whatnot. We had Coach Ronnie Shields on yesterday here, where he talked about, getting Jermall Charlo back in the mix a little bit, having him in the gym and things like that. It's just that, you didn't necessarily get any confirmation about this bout here, as with Coach Ronnie, he had just been recovering from fighting an illness there the previous week. So, once we got him back, that was just like about a couple of days since Coach Ronnie had been fully recovered from his illness. So, very thankful that Coach Ronnie Shields is back at it, back in the gym, back doing, what he loves to do there in this training and teaching fighters there over in his gym in Texas, right? But now he's going to have his guy there in Jermall Charlo in preparation for this particular bout. And hey, it adds to his busy schedule. He has, a busy schedule here coming up in the next few months here. He got fighters fighting in April. He got this coming up in May. He got a couple fighters that will be fighting on June 21st over in Newark, right? Because you're going to have Vito Mielnicki fighting. You're going to have Lorenzo Truck Simpson fighting over in New Jersey on June 21st. So you got that going down. Yo, what's up, my guy, brother Clarence Klein? There are the No Duck Zone podcast here on the live chat. What's going on with you? We just talking about this thing here with, of course, with Caleb Plant securing this bout here, going up against Armando Reséndiz, and with finally, Jermall Charlo going up against Cornflake LaManna, right? So that has been announced. It will be May 31st there at the Mandalay Bay, right? So that's something here that, I would say some folks are looking forward to. They're looking forward to seeing Jermall Charlo back in the ring. They got Caleb playing here back in the mix. Yes, we still have to see if this will lead to maybe a bout between Caleb Plant and Jermall Charlo. I mean, I'm not necessarily sure how that's going to work out, but we will see how that goes. You feel me? If you want, man, you could also jump in on this conversation here for the Midweek Report, Brother Clarence, if you want to. I'm just here for about another 40 minutes or something like that. So, we'll try to see how I could do this here for another 40 minutes here with Midweek Report. Now, like I was saying, we got, those two bouts that are taking place there. Like I said, with Charlo coming in with a record of 33-0 with 22 KOs, going up against Thomas Cornflake LaManna with a record of 39 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw, 18 wins by way of knockout. That is a co-featured bout. And you're going to have in the main event Caleb Plant there with a record of 23-2, 14 of those wins by way of knockout, going up against Armando Reséndiz with a record of 15-2, 11 of those wins by way of knockout. So that's what we got going on here at this point here for May 31st. Hey, that makes a few things shaping up for this particular year. And we ain't even halfway through the year yet. We ain't even halfway through the year yet. You know what I mean? A lot of action. Yeah, I would say it's a lot of action here coming up for 2025. You see what's already happened here over the course of the first 3 months. That has been very active there in the first 3 months. It is going to be continuing here over these next few weeks. We got something going on here coming up Saturday. Got a couple of fight cards coming up Saturday. ProBox got something. Top Rank has something. At least, here in the States also has, is involved with the world title fight there in the middleweight division as well this weekend. And then next weekend, we got crazy action on April 12th. 4 cards that's going to be taking place. You know what I mean? So we got, of course, a unification bout there. Boots Ennis versus Iamana Stanionis. There, that's going to be in Atlantic City. For those that haven't done so, y'all can check out the thing that they did for Boots and Stanionis. I think it's on the Matchroom Boxing YouTube page there for you to check out. Them are preparing for their bout, right? You got, of course, a ProBox card that is at Maryland Live over in Hanover. Yes, Hanover, Maryland. There, of course, you're going to have a lot of young talent there from the area, the DMV area, that's going to be showcased on that fight, featuring in the headline about Short Dog Jordan White will be there. And it's going to be a great card there for that one. You got Albert Bell that's scheduled to have his fights over in Toledo, Ohio. So we got to see how that's going to shape up as well. And got a number of other things going on within the sport of boxing on April 12th. Like I said, I mean, it's a very busy schedule there, coming up. We got to see what else is going down too, because at least for now, I got to check something with the fight card over in Toledo, right? Because we got to see if, the Prince, Albert Bell, is able to have something secured, if I'm not mistaken, because it looks like right now they haven't had something secured yet. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes here at this particular point. Hopefully, we got that thing going down. But that particular fight card will be streaming live on millions.co. This was announced a couple of weeks ago for that. So that is a lot of action there on that front. You feel me? So we got that going down. Just hold on just a moment. We got something else here that I'm going to try to look up here for that fight, for that date, April 12th as well, because yeah, like I said, I mean, when it's a lot of action, it's a lot of action. I think you're going to also have Shane Mosley Jr. Fighting on that date as well. Yes, against DeAndre Pettis in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So, like I said, we got something in Hanover, Maryland. We got, of course, the unification bout in Atlantic City. We got the fight card in Toledo, Ohio, and also something in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the very least there. So that shows you how much is going on and going down here for April 12th. Okay, so a lot of action with that. And, like I was saying here earlier, what I'll be doing tomorrow is checking out a few fighters that will be part of the April 12th card over in Hanover, Maryland. So you definitely want to catch up with the Boxing Source YouTube channel, so you'll be able to see a number of those interviews that'll be posted up here, either later in the day on Thursday or pretty much going up on Friday or Saturday. Okay, so a lot of action there on April 12th, right? But soon here, I want to get something for the schedule for this Saturday, but we'll see how that thing goes on. Let me see here. What I want to do is I want to kind of play this thing here real quick, and then we'll get to what's going on this Saturday. So bear with me just a second, and I'll play this clip here for something that is playing over in the DMV area later on this year. So hold on just a moment.
Attention fight fans in the DMV. It's live, it's local, it's amateur boxing. Saturday, May the 3rd at Catholic University's Heritage Hall, 620 Michigan Avenue Northeast, Washington, D.C. Come out and support the next generation of fighters as some of the DMV's best amateurs take on their counterparts from Cincinnati, Ohio. Baby Girl Productions, in association with Boxing Not Bullets, presents a night of amateur boxing and karaoke, Saturday, May the 3rd at Heritage Hall, 620 Michigan Avenue Northeast in Washington, D.C. Tickets are now on sale and just $30, available at eventbritedc.com. That's eventbritedc.com. Search Knockout Champs, or you can use the QR code on your screen.
All right, we back. Yeah, we back. All right, bet. So we got a lot of action that's coming up here on April 5th. Top Rank has a couple of cards here. One that's really secured at the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, and you also have something that is going on in Kazakhstan as the IBF and WBO middleweight champion Jermall Alhamdulillah goes up against Anuel and Singu. Telling you that is like the toughest main event to pronounce in history, probably. Jermall Alhamdulillah versus Anuel and Sengu. All right. So that's what they have there going on in Kazakhstan with the IBF and WBO middleweight championships on the line. Okay. This is, a voluntary defense of these IBF and WBO titles here for Jermall, as the number one contender currently for the WBO is Denzel Bentley. Yeah. And for the IBF, there really isn't really much of a contender out there. Espinosa Aliha is the highest ranked contender there in the IBF. Like, come on, what are we doing? What are we doing, y'all? And with Anuel, he is currently rated number 7 in the IBF, and he is rated number 12 in the WBO. Well, at least what it shows here, what I got. So that's why you have this as a voluntary defense of those titles there for Jermall. But yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm like, yo, we got to do something here with Jermall. Like, how come he's not looking to get himself in the mix there to try to have another unification? He's had bouts. These are his bouts, okay, while being the WBO title or champion, right? Denzel Bentley, who I mentioned earlier, Stephen Butler had the unification with Vincenzo Gualtieri, Andre Mikhailovich, and now Anuel and Sengu. Okay. This is the third unbeaten fighter that Jermall will face here up to this point. And, well, of course, he's probably highly favored in this bout. So it's like, come on, what are we doing, folks? Like, you got him as highly favored in this particular bout. Like, let's see. I'm gonna look up these odds, although I shouldn't really look up the odds for this fight at the very least, man. Like, come on, what are we doing, y'all? Like, he probably he like, the thing with Jermall, he shouldn't really be involved in these type of things. All right, so what I got here, at least through the DraftKings, right, is for the money line, Jermall Alhamdulillah is minus 1100, and Sengu is plus 650. Like that's what we got going on with that. Come on, y'all. What's all these pop-ups here, man? Come on, DraftKings, what are we doing? The percentage of bets placed on the money line here through DraftKings, 95% of the bets placed are for Jermall. 95%. Come on, y'all. Over under is at 10.5 rounds, and it's minus 115 on both joints. So it won't even matter. You know what I mean? It won't even matter on that. Like, you ain't gonna get much off of that. They got plus money for Jermall by decision, and at minus 140 for Jermall by KO. Okay. For the result for Anuel and Summit and Sengu, by decision is plus 1100, and by TKO is plus 1600. That should tell you how bad this matchup looks to be here for that unification. It ain't a unification. Like, it's Jermall defending the unified titles there against Sengu. Come on, man. What? That's just not good at all, man. It looks like so. Like, we got to get something going on with Jermall. Now I got something on that, right? With Jermall, I did talk about this as far as like one other fighter that is competing in the middleweight division or around the middleweight division. And that is the guy that's ranked at number 2 in the WBO and number 4 in the IBF, and Shane Mosley Jr. He'll be fighting next week. He's also ranked at number 4 in the WBC, it looks like. We got to do something. Like Shane Mosley Jr., he got to get in the mix. See if he can have a fight there with Janibek. You also got Chris Eubank that's going to be facing Conor Benn in April 24th or something like that, April 24th or 26th, something. Like, okay, you get money fighting Conor Benn, but come on. After that, nah, you need to go after some of these world titles here, man. Like, you got to have something like, depending on like what happens here with the bout with Conor Benn, if he takes care of business with that, gets the money, he'll still have the name. Hey, have Janibek go over to the UK and see if you can win those belts from Janibek later this year. But with Janibek, like he hasn't really done much here in the middleweight division, and it's kind of like part of why the middleweight division as a whole has been really, really just mediocre, as they say, mediocre. You know what I mean? What was that? T.I. that says I want a mediocre or something like that. I don't know what that song was. But middleweight division needs some help. It really needs some help as far as like getting some buzz or whatever it is. Hey, I don't know. Maybe you could have Carlos Adames and Reséndiz Lara do a unification or something. Actually, I wouldn't mind that bout. Adames versus Lara in a unification, wouldn't mind that at all. Of course, we saw what happened with Adames there against Hamza Shiraz on February 22nd. And thing is, with Lara, the top rated contender they have there for him, it's a fellow Cuban, right? So, yeah, I don't see those two guys stepping in the ring to face each other. And who else are they going to kind of like put up there for Reséndiz Lara? I don't know, maybe a Kyron Davis. That's kind of like who I see is pretty much Kyron Davis. Outside of that, I don't know. You feel me? So that is why, like the middleweight division, man, it definitely needs some help on that front. It really needs some help on that front. So we'll see here what happens with Janibek, right? And then after that, as far as like co-feature bouts, you're gonna have not co-feature bouts, but other bouts that's gonna be on that card. You're gonna have Bakadir Jalilov that's gonna be featured on there. You're gonna also have Odebek Kolmatov that's gonna be on that card. Yes, he is former WBA champ, right? Something like that. So he got Odebek that's gonna be on there. Badazan Jukabayev is gonna be on this thing. Sultan Azarbek is going to be on that card. So I don't even know like what time that bout is actually going to take place, or that fight card is going to take place. But with that unification bout as the headliner there with Janibek versus Ngamasengu, I guess if you're a boxing junkie to the max, I guess you'll want to catch that bout. But yeah, that's going to be over live in Kazakhstan on Saturday. And then later on, as you're going to have in Las Vegas, Richard Torres versus Guido Vianello in headlining that card. I'm going to see here if I can pull this up actually here on the Box Rec real quick. So just bear with me here 1 second. I'm going to pull that joint up here for Box Rec. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. Right. All right, bet. So we got this thing here. Of course, you got Richard Torres versus Guido Vianello there in the heavyweight division. You got Abdullah Mason going up against Carlos Ornelas. There, of course, Ornelas is a replacement opponent there as Giovanni Cabrera. Yeah, he isn't available. You're gonna have Adolfo Delgado against Elvis Rodriguez in the super lightweight division. That's gonna be really interesting there, right? Also, Jihad Tucker versus Troy Williamson there at middleweight. You're also going to have Steven Navarro be featured on this. Albert Gonzalez featured on there against Dana Coolwell. Art Barrera is going to be featured on this. And Samuel Contreras has his pro debut against Robert Jimenez. So, hey, that is the full card there. That's going to be on ESPN Plus. I think that's going to start probably about 6 p.m. 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. So let me see here if I could pull up what time that joint's going to be jumping off. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's around 6 p.m. Yeah, I think it's around 6 p.m. That you're gonna have that fight card start. We'll see. You know what I mean? Hadn't necessarily gotten any updates as far as like the fight week for this yet. And it's just a few days away. So we want to see about press conference, weigh in, that type of thing. We're gonna see how that goes down, right? But still, though, I'm here for that Richard Torres versus Guido Vianello. That's going to be a key bout there in the heavyweight division. You got Richard Torres that is currently at number 14 in the IBF. You got Guido Vianello at number 13 in the IBF there. So that's fairly interesting there. I thought I saw them in another set of rankings here, but nope, not necessarily, at least not right now. So this kind of like has it to the point where these fighters could climb up there in the rankings there in the IBF. You feel me? So that's going to be something to watch out for. Also, my thing, of course, with Abdullah Mason, that is going to be something there where he's going to be featured, of course, with him having the initial schedule bout there versus Giovanni Cabrera. That could have been something there for him to kind of climb up the rankings there, the lightweight division. But with Cabrera out and Ornelas in, it's going to be an early night for Abdullah Mason. It's going to be an early night for him. Okay. You got Jahad Tucker going up against Troy Williamson. It's going to be also an interesting bout there in the middleweight division. Jahad Tucker, I mentioned that Jahad Tucker was at a point where he was aiming to fight. What was it? He was going to, be in the mix there at 154. Because there was a time where he was calling out Xander Zayas. And that looked like that was his mission. But he kind of got to a point where I guess he couldn't hold the weight down. So he had to pretty much compete in the middleweight division. And also, Top Rank sometimes, they do great matchmaking. We've said that multiple times over. Top Rank does do some great matchmaking. But at the same time, if you have a point where you might slip around or slip up there with Top Rank, they might put you in with a couple of tests there. They might test you. And they did that a couple of times there with Jahad Tucker, right? But he was able to get through those tests here. And now he's in a 10-round bout in the middleweight division against Troy Williamson. I might see something about this, though. I might see something about this because I see a potential matchup there in the middleweight division within Top Rank that could involve Jahad Tucker. And it might be an opportunity for him to climb up in the rankings. But I would have to see, how it goes here, at least in this particular instance there against Troy Williamson. It might actually be, I don't know, I'll ask around, but it might actually be against another Troy that they got there in Top Rank. But, we'll see. We'll see. But he has something there, like I said, against Troy Williamson coming up here on Saturday. And I talked about the other fights that are, featured on this ESPN Plus card here for Top Rank. So, as long as you have ESPN Plus, you'll be able to get that. Now, the other thing also that we got covered up here that's going to be on the Zone, Queensberry Promotions. Let's see here. We got it. I bet it should be on. It's going to be featured with Joe Joyce versus Philip Hrgovic. There, of course, it's supposed to be another heavyweight fight. I think it was supposed to be White versus Joyce, but now it's Joyce versus Hrgovic. Okay. This is gonna be something here in the heavyweight division. Of course, Hrgović, had the loss, there, and also Joe Joyce had the loss there, from previous year. You had Joe Joyce losing to Derek Chisora, though. I was like, man, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Like, if there was something there, I would have thought that Joe Joyce would have been able to beat Derek Chisora, but that didn't happen. Philip Hrgović, of course, had his stoppage loss to Daniel Dubois. It had been in the big six. So we got two fighters that are like right there on the what I would say the prove it bout. This is like a prove it bout for both of these fighters. Philip Hrgović, even though having the loss to Daniel Dubois, is ranked in the WBA. He's ranked in the WBC, the IBF, and that's pretty much it. So 3 of the 4 major sanctioning bodies Philip Hrgović is involved in or ranked in. So for Joe Joyce, if he gets this win, he's right back in the mix there in the heavyweight division. But for Hrgović, this is something where he has to say, hey, you know what, that bout that he had against Daniel Dubois was something where, I guess it was a tough break with the cuts and everything like that because, early in the bout, Daniel Dubois couldn't get out of the way of Philip Hrgovic's right hand, man. So he had a good start. It was just, Daniel Dubois made it rough, made it tough, made it ugly, and ended up winning the bout by stoppage. Now here's going up against Joe Joyce, who, has those 2 knockout losses to Zhilei Zhang that pretty much like broke him. Of course, he was nicknamed the Juggernaut, and then you can't have a record of a Juggernaut, then have a stoppage loss first to Zhilei Zhang, and then the next one be involved in the knockout of the year or get knocked out by Zhilei Zhang by a perfect left by Zhilei Zhang. And as I mentioned earlier, losing to Derek Chisora. That was a definite setback there for Joe Joyce. But now going up against Philip Hrgović, that's going to be another interesting bout there in the heavyweight division. So you're going to have this one here with Joe Joyce against Philip Hrgović, and then later in the day you're going to have the thing there with Guido Villanello going up against Richard Torres. So that's a card. Or 2 fights there in the heavyweight division to look forward to as those guys are around that top 20 or top 30 in the heavyweight division. You feel me? So you do have that. What else we got here? This card. I'm like, Mark Chamberlain is on the card that lost. Remember, Mark Chamberlain was supposedly set up as a potential opponent for Shakur Stevenson. There, but I don't know why they would kind of like set him up as an opponent for Shakur Stevenson. That that kind of like makes no sense to me. But hey, he ended up losing last September, so that's what they got there for that, right? So that kind of like shapes up the card there in Manchester. You feel me? So that is that particular card, right? So a lot of action there on April 5th. A lot of action coming up on April 12th. We got a fight card that's coming up on April 18th, Friday, April 18th, over in Orlando. What else we got? I mentioned a thing there with Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. That's there April 26th. And then you got, as they say, the triple header there in May, that fight card in New York City, followed by Canelo Alvarez versus William School in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And then you got to have Naoya Inoue in Las Vegas on Sunday. So that tells you there, like, how much action is coming up here within the next few weeks. And then, after that particular weekend, you have May 10th. There's going to be action on May 10th. You're going to have, over in Kissimmee, right? You're going to have Ardrell Holmes Jr. going up against Erickson Lubin. That's headlining ProBox card there on May 10th. And you're going to have like other action that's going to be floating around. I know that in San Antonio, they got something going on there. I may or may not be involved in that fight card on May 10th in San Antonio. We have to see if we can get some updates on that here over the next week or so, if I may be involved in that. But there's probably other things coming up there within that fight day. Of course, as I mentioned there, with May 31st now announced there with Caleb Plant there, that'll go up against Armando Reséndiz and Jermall Charlo versus Thomas LaManna at the Mandalay Bay Casino, Michelob Ultra Arena at Mandalay Bay. So a lot of action here coming up in the sport of boxing. We're going to have more announcements coming. I said that TGB Promotions had also put down something for the T-Mobile Arena for June 21st. Yeah. So we may have an announcement about that particular fight card here soon. You also have that'll be in the Prudential Center. Vito Mielnicki Jr. will be headlining a fight card there at the Prudential Center here, going up against Camille Gardzilik. And I also mentioned there with Lorenzo Truck Simpson is going to be on that card, going up against William Townsend. You're going to have Damian Neba going up against Marcin Siwi also on that card. So, like I said, there's going to be a lot of action here coming up. And that still didn't mention the thing with June 7th. We're kind of waiting for them to announce June 7th with Keyshawn Davis versus Edwin De Los Santos. That looks like it's all but signed or whatever it is, unless if there's something else that comes up there. That's what I'm seeing is down the pike is Keyshawn Davis defending his WBO lightweight title against Edwin De Los Santos. Should be over at the Scope Arena in Norfolk, Virginia. So we're going to see how that if that shapes up or not. So that's pretty much in the horizon for y'all to look out for, is that Keyshawn Davis versus Edwin De Los Santos to be slated for June 7th at the Scope Arena in Norfolk, Virginia. All right, so you got that. What else? I say, before I roll out, I'll post or talk about this thing here also with the rumor mill. So I wanted to pull this up from the rumor mill. I had posted this a couple of days ago, right? We kind of talked about it on different avenues here, or different channels. That there could be a mystery merger coming in boxing. Yeah, there's been some talk about another merger happening, or that could be happening here in the works within boxing, right? But my thing is that we got something else that could be down the pipe. You feel me? So what I got here. All right, let me see. I'll see if I can share this also, right? I talked about, posted this stuff here through the boxingsource.net. You had a number of fights that have taken place already. A number of them I mentioned, a number of them I've been to here, over the past couple of months. And we got like a lot of action that's happening. We talked about, the merger. Of course, the big news there as far as like TKO seeing about coming up with a boxing league. That would involve Turkey Al-Sheikh, Dana White, and Nick Khan. But you also could potentially have something with Heyman Boxing and ProBox. Yeah, pretty much like kind of what I would say. Clarified a little bit because, people talk about PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, PBC, all that type of stuff. PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, is more of like a television show. It's not a promotional company. when you go on BoxRec and you see these cards, like I mentioned there with this upcoming card on May 31st, it doesn't say PBC, it doesn't say Premier Boxing Champions, it don't even say Hammond Boxing, right? Excuse me though. It says TGB Promotions or Tom Brown, basically, or Samson Boxing. At times you may see Warriors Boxing, on there or whatnot. So, with that being said, they and maybe Gary Jonas and ProBox could be working on a partnership of their own. Now, for me, I think it's more something where it's a distribution type deal that could feature a number of the fighters that are under the advisement of Al Heyman. And you could see them featured on these ProBox cards or ProBox shows. More fights, more dates, more availability for the fighters. That's pretty much what I say in reference to this. And that is a great thing here for the sport of boxing, to have fighters actually get dates, actually be able to be active, be in the ring and fight. You won't necessarily have to see a number of these fighters fighting once or twice a year or having these extended layoffs. If you have this thing here with Heyman Boxing and with ProBox, it could lead to some very, very good matchups, and it could lead to some very good cards. Now, the thing about it is with ProBox, and Gary Jonas has stressed this multiple times with the number of the shows that he's involved in, particularly the ones that, he is under with ProBox Promotions, that he holds those fights over in Plant City or a number of other fight cards that happen, around the country, is that he makes matchups that are as close or as even as possible from, as they say, an on-paper standpoint. So if that's going to be the case, then, hey, you could have something here where you could see a number of really, really good fights that involve not only guys that are part of ProBox, but also fighters that are under the advisement of Al Heyman or have been working with TGB Promotions, Samson Boxing, Warriors Boxing. You talk about, like I said, Tom Brown, talk about Samson Lukowicz, you talk about Louis the Cubist, right? Y'all know about a number of those, the fighters that are under, those promotional companies, right? So think about that when you see that this could potentially be a merger here with, I'll say, at least for now, Premier Boxing Champions, quote unquote, and ProBox. So you can have that, Also, hey, what about having a Premier Boxing Champions, their type of presentation in conjunction with ProBox? So you could have shows that could have a whole different look if you have Premier Boxing Champions do something on ProBox. So you could see PBC on ProBox. What about a PBC on ProBox? That could be something. One. And two, hey, maybe you could get, other, organizations involved, that have, some fighters that have had one-offs through Premier Boxing Champions or Heyman Boxing or TGB Promotions that could be involved in this. So, hey, if they kind of like looked ahead to doing something like this, it could be announced within a couple of months. Could be announced. Like I said, it's rumor. Could be announced within a couple of months. But if this does take place, this will really give a good shot in the arm to the sport of boxing if that happens. So we'll see how that story develops there with the potential merger with a, as I'll say once again, quote unquote, Premier Boxing Champions in ProBox. We could see that. We could possibly see that. So be on the lookout for all of that here in the coming weeks. But that's mainly what I got here for this edition of the Midweek Report. Like I said, I got a busy day tomorrow as I'll be hitting a couple of spots to get interviews with fighters and trainers that'll be involved in the April 12th card. That's going to be over in Hanover, Maryland. Of course, that is a ProBox TV presentation or telecast there. That's for April 12th. Yes, they still have the ProBox card that's coming up on April 5th as well. So, hey, like I said, I mean, we got a lot of action April 5th and April 12th. You know, I mentioned, what is that? 4 cards that's going to be coming up on Saturday. Queensberry card, couple top rank cards, right, and a ProBox card on Saturday, this Saturday, and next Saturday, another few coming up there. So, like I said, we got a lot of action for fight fans, and yeah, I haven't necessarily even gotten into talking about the unification bout between Jerome Boots Ennis and Iamana Sanionis. I might do that for the Boxing Source podcast for Sunday. But outside of that, like I said, with all of this action here, it's a lot to catch up with. It's a lot to do. So hopefully y'all be able to catch as much as you can here when it comes to boxing, particularly in these next couple of weeks. So that's something here to look out for. So that's what I got here for this particular edition of the Midweek Report. Hit the like button, hit the share button, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook here. They sit sign for the Midweek Report. But hey, that's all I got here for y'all. I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.